Now that we have all of the parts, we're going to start to make an assembly file. So go up to New, Assembly, Place, and we're going to place in all of our parts. Click anywhere, and it'll switch it to an ISO view where you can see everything. We are just going to start slapping this all together. So let's start with a make constraint. We're going to mate, come on computer, these two faces together. We want this edge to be flush with this edge. And if we look at the bottom half, we want that to be flush with that. We're going to say the same thing about this one. That has to be flush with that. This edge has to be, oop, not that edge. This edge has to be flush with this edge. And then we need to make a make constraint with this face and with this face. Now that those are in place, we're going to do something similar with this. We're going to say that that edge has to be touching this edge. I don't feel like flipping it around, so I'm going to say that this piece has to be touching that piece. And this is the right side, and it says this is the right of my block. So I'm going to make sure that this is flush with this side here. Okay, let's take a look at the back side. This one does matter with orientation because there's a little hole on it, but if I don't want to flip everything upside down, I can just click on the top of this and say that is flush with the top of this one. The edge doesn't really matter here as long as that part's on the bottom. So we're going to say those two are matched up. And then we're going to make a flush constraint with this outside face and this face here. We have our accessory holder. This is going to be a make constraint with this. It needs to be flush. You know what? Let's switch it to a make constraint. We'll get this edge here, mated with one of these edges over here, and then we'll make this flush with this. Okay, so that slaps in there like that. I have a make constraint where the side of this is going to be on this side of the box. And we're also going to use this little hole that we made and say that axis, so if you hover over the round part, this line will light up. That axis lines up with this axis. And again, you hover over the round part and you'll get that line. And we made the axis so that this can pivot. Let's click on the bottom so it highlights blue, right click on it, go down to rounded, and now this box can't move around and things that are ungrounded can. There we go. And the last bit is the handle, which you know I thought we saved the right orientation. I know we saved the right orientation, but it's still messed up. C'est la vie. So that has to be mated to this. Those two things should be touching. And we're going to make an angle constraint. It's a directed angle, which means that these two things should be facing the same direction. Okay. Probably would be nice to have a way to mate this right in the center. And the easiest way to do that is if we click on one of these guys. Let's go into the origin folder and make the plane that goes down the middle visible. Click on this one here, find the origin folder and the one that goes through the middle of that, make that also visible. I can't see it. Come on. Oh, fine. Well, let's double click on the part then. There's visibility. Yes, let's save it. And just to make things easier, I'm going to close out the windows that we're not using. And you'll see why in just a second. Should be everything that we're not using. Okay, so now that I have the planes visible, I can say constrain, and I will mate both of these planes together. And we need to figure out a height for this guy. And the easiest way is just going to be to say that I'm going to mate the bottom of that to this part here. So now if you look, it's actually inside of the box, which is not quite what we wanted. So we're going to say it has an offset of, I don't know, let's try 12 inches. And 12 inches looks pretty good to me. So we're going to hit apply there. I don't like these yellow planes, so I'm going to right click, uncheck visibility. Then we're going to turn off the plane on this one. So we click on it to highlight it. Right click the plane, uncheck visibility, and we can collapse those back down again as well. Okay, so there's all the assembly, kind of. What you're still missing is that this all has to be put together with fasteners. It's not just wood glue. So we need to show where those fasteners have to go. We're going to modify each of the parts by just double clicking them. So double click this. Now I can make a new sketch on it. Right click, new sketch. Right click again. I can project. Right click, I can project geometry. And I want to see where that handle would be located with the constraints we have. Okay, so there it is. And we're going to put in 2 screws, one at the top, one at the bottom. So I'm going to put in a couple of points. And if I know that this whole handle is 1.5, and there's 1, 2, 3 spaces in there, I can say from here to here, it's going to be 1.5 divided by 3. And here to here is going to be that same number. It's a 1/2 inch. Okay, we're going to finish our sketch and make a hole. And when we just click hole, it's going to pick both of those points. We want this to be a counterbore hole, or I'm sorry, countersink. So it has like a V shape to it. And this is going to go through all. 1/4 inch looks good. Actually, let's make it 0.125. We'll use some skinny ones, 1/8 inch. Okay. So that looks good. But we need to also make adjustments to the handle. So, in case you missed that, we were on this part. I clicked return. I double click the handle. Now I can right click the face and make a new sketch on the handle. Right click again, we're going to project geometry. We can use exactly where those holes are, as long as we put center points where the points would be for the centers. Then we can go back up to hole, and this time it's going to be not a through all, but a distance. We're only going to have it go in 1 inch, and it's still an 1/8 inch diameter hole. Okay, so now we have a way to fasten this on this side. We made the front and the back different, so when we go on this side, it's going to be facing the correct direction. Say new sketch here. Project geometry. Same thing we just did to the other side. But because we already did it to the other side, we can see where those holes were. So this should save us a little bit of time. Again, make the points, choose hole, change this to through all, make that a countersink, 0.125. Return, double click the handle, right click, new sketch. Project geometry, we want the two holes that were there. Center points on the middle of the holes. Change this to distance, 0.125, goes in 1 inch. Looks good. Okay. So now we have two holes in the handle, a way to hold it on. We have to find a way to hold this thing on. So let's make another sketch on this. Double click to open it up, right click, new sketch. Let's find where exactly that is. Looks like it's there. I'll put in 2 points. This is 1.5. 1.5 divided by 3 is a 1/2 inch. So this is going to be a 1/2 inch from this side. 1/2 inch apart. And we want this to line up with the middle of this. And to line up with each other. Hole again. It's a countersink. And it does go through all. Return. Take a look at the other side. New sketch. We should already have those two holes. Add points to the middle of them. Finish your sketch, select hole. That all looks good still. Return. Now we just have to modify this piece. Right click on the ends. Project geometry. Point. Finish sketch, hole. Change this to distance again. Make sure it's 0.125. New sketch on this face. Project geometry. Point. Hole. Distance of 0.125 looks good to me. Okay, and then the only thing left to do is to make ways to attach the sides and ways to attach the bottom. We're going to make that in the next video.